Am I the a-hole for considering divorce over my wife's ex-behavior? I've been with my wife for 6 years, married for 1.5 years. Her son, let's call him Jake, is 9. He used to call me Dad, and we had a great bond. 5 months ago, his biological dad showed up. Since then, Jake has been repeating things his dad says and constantly insulting me. I went from "he is my dad" to "he is just my mom's husband." Ha ha ha. I talked to my wife about it, but she thinks he's just a kid and that I should let it go. Last week, Jake called me because his dad, who was supposed to pick him up from school and then take him shopping for his mom's birthday, bailed on him. I stepped in, took Jake shopping, and we had a good half day together. I even paid for the gift he picked out. When I dropped him off at his dad's, the man was sleeping and had completely forgotten to pick Jake up. On my wife's birthday, Jake lied and said it was his dad who took him shopping and paid for the gift, despite his dad never having a job or paying child support. His dad graciously accepted all the compliments and even made fun of the gift I gave my wife. My wife, however, didn't say a word to him. After the party, when Jake went to his dad's, I told my wife I was upset that she didn't stand up for me. She rolled her eyes and said, "Why? Because he was more thoughtful than you?" I told her the truth about what happened, but she didn't believe me. I even showed her my credit card statement and phone logs, proving that Jake called me on Tuesday. Frustrated, I left to stay with my brother because I can't be around someone who doesn't trust me. Here's the thing. My brother thinks I'm right. My mother-in-law has messaged me a million times, saying it's a misunderstanding and that I'm overreacting. My wife hasn't apologized. She came over yesterday and said she feels stuck because she doesn't want to make her son feel bad about his dad. She keeps saying, "He is just a kid, and you should be the bigger person." When I asked if she was apologizing, she said no. She insisted it was just a misunderstanding and added that she's seen how much her ex has been trying. Then she said I was acting like a needy man baby. I told her that if she thinks so highly of her ex and doesn't see my efforts, she should leave because she clearly doesn't get my point. She doesn't seem to care about any of the effort I put in. Her response? "That's exactly what I'm saying. You're acting like a needy baby who needs a reward. You need to man up if you love me." So now I'm torn. Should I start talking to a lawyer because there is no point in working on this? Or am I overreacting and should we try counseling? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Start detailing your life now. I feel bad for the kid but not the a-hole. Your wife didn't apologize and didn't appreciate your effort to help her son. I'd say she deserves the deadbeat ex. Yeah, I was gonna say this. Clearly the ex is getting into her head, probably also in her pants, convincing her that you're not man enough and that you're wimpy for having feelings. If I were you, I'd let her be with her ex, who has done nothing for her and is taking credit for the work you're doing. You're not man enough for her? Cool, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Do her the favor of letting her be with someone who is man enough. Then, in a couple of months, when her son is miserable, she's being let down and neglected, and no one's taking care of either of them, she'll realize how good she had it with you. If she wants you to be like her ex so bad, let her be with him. The "man up" comment from her is the most insulting of all. Her deadbeat ex isn't a man. He's a literal cockroach. He abandoned his kid, and now that he's back, he forgets to pick him up and sleeps through it. He's a trash dad and a trash excuse of a man. Meanwhile, Opie has raised his boy since he was 3 years old, went out of his way to pick him up when Biodad forgot, and spent a half day with him. That's how a man behaves. That she's trying to pit Opie against her deadbeat ex just shows that she belongs with her garbage ex. I feel terrible for the poor kid though, not the a-hole Opie. While I understand her desire for there to be a bond between her son and her ex, I do not understand her total disrespect for you. She didn't believe you, called you a liar, refused to apologize, gaslit you, and then called you names. She's an a-hole. By the way, your stepson used you, lied about you, and embarrassed you. At that age, these are still a-hole moves. The ex is a piece of garbage a-hole. Unless you enjoy this level of disrespect from the three of them, you're going to have to leave. Not one of them will ever back down or treat you with respect if you become their punching bag. Not the a-hole. $10 bio dad told his son to say he bought it. $20 says that the divorce was a one-sided decision and she only married OP because she didn't want her or her son to be alone and broke. $50 wife and deadbeat dad still sleeping together. Update. Thank you everyone for your input. I really appreciate it. I'm contacting an attorney this week to help me with the divorce process. I can't continue living like this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ruining my boyfriend's birthday dinner because I didn't accept to pay for everyone? I, 20 female, have been dating my boyfriend Ryan, 21 male, for about a year. For his birthday this year, I wanted to do something special. So I told him I'd take him out to a nice dinner, just the two of us, and I'd cover the bill. He was super excited and agreed. I made a reservation at a nice restaurant, put on a nice dress, and was excited to see his reaction. When I got there, I was surprised to see that Ryan had invited his best friend, who also brought his girlfriend. He hadn't mentioned anything about them coming. I was caught off guard, but thought, why not have a nice couple's dinner? The whole time, his best friend and his girlfriend ordered a ton of appetizers and multiple drinks each. I started panicking a little because I realized the bill was going to be way more than I'd planned for. Toward the end, Ryan leaned over and said, "Don't forget, you said you'd cover it." I told him I'd agreed to pay for his dinner because it was his birthday, not for another couple I didn't even know was coming. He said it's rude to invite people to dinner and not pay for them. At this point, I was already thinking, what the heck is wrong with you? And told him it's ruder to invite people to a dinner someone else is paying for without telling them first. I was so angry I just went quiet and waited for the waiter to bring the check. When the check came, I paid for my meal at his, then told his buddy he should cover the bill for himself and his girlfriend. Both of them looked at me like I'd insulted them and said I embarrassed them in front of the server. Ryan even called me cheap and said I'd ruin his birthday. All of this happened last Saturday, and since then, Ryan has been giving me the cold shoulder, only responding to my messages with insults about how I embarrassed him in front of his friend. Now I'm thinking about breaking up because he hasn't spoken to me in a week even though I wanted to apologize. Maybe some of you have advice for me? I wish you hadn't paid and had just left. Or at least only paid for your own food and left. He's using you. He's a nasty freeloading user. Now he's trying to guilt you into thinking you should have paid for his friends? You've got to be kidding me. Do not see him again. He's not a good person. He's a prick. Tell him that. You deserve better. You'll meet better. Don't settle for pricks. His whole behavior points to a D-head. And the second she tries to break up, the gaslighting will begin. Honestly, I'm starting to think you're right. His behavior has been so selfish, and I can already feel him trying to make me feel guilty about the situation. If I try to break up, I'm sure he'll turn it around on me. It's exhausting, and I'm realizing I deserve way better than this. I normally wouldn't suggest this, but you should just ghost him and forget him. He's already giving you the silent treatment. If he says anything, just say, "Oh, you're talking to me? I thought you broke up with me." I've already moved on and really don't want to talk to you ever again. Not the a-hole. Your boyfriend, his friend, and his friend's girlfriend are crappy, and you need to reevaluate whether or not your boyfriend cares about you, or if he's just using you. That was very rude and presumptuous in all three of their parts. Now he isn't talking to you over it? He's made it pretty clear the only thing he cares about is how you financially benefit him and his friends. Screw them all. You're better off now. You're too young to waste time on people who treat you like that. Thank you for your perspective. It really helped. You're right. His behavior was disrespectful and it feels like he and his friends took advantage of me. I wanted to make his birthday special, but instead, he called me cheap and hasn't spoken to me since. I realize now I shouldn't waste my time on someone who doesn't value me. It's time to focus on myself and find someone who treats me better. Not the a-hole. Sounds like this relationship has run its course. I'm starting to think you're right. His behavior was so off, and I've been feeling more disrespected than appreciated. I wanted to do something nice for him, and instead, he made it all about him and his friends. I think this relationship has run its course too. It's tough, but I know I deserve better. Next story. Am I the a-hole for buying a house without consulting my girlfriend of 4 months? I, 37 male, am a single dad with 2 kids, 16 male and 14 male. I met my girlfriend, 32 female, back in February. We dated casually and non-exclusively until September, and then we began dating exclusively. My girlfriend has indicated that she wants to have kids. She has no kids currently. I'm definitely open to that, but I've told her it would only be after dating for at least a couple of years. I've been looking to buy a new home. I absolutely hate living where I am now. I bought it when my kids were little, and it was convenient back then. However, my work is 30 minutes away, and the boys' school is 45 minutes away. Recently, a house came on the market in the neighborhood 5 minutes from work and 10 to 15 minutes from the boys' school. It was listed well below market value. My realtor called me, I saw it the same day, and I made an offer. The offer was accepted. I told my girlfriend the good news, but she was less than thrilled. She asked why I didn't consult her. The reality is that I've been looking for about a year, and houses move very quickly in this market. Often they don't stay available for more than a day if they're reasonably priced. I had to act fast. I explained all of this, but she's still upset. I talked to my sister, 34 female, about it. She said she understands my girlfriend's frustration. My sister explained that she was in a similar position 2 years ago. She was a single woman in her early 30s, looking to get married and have kids soon. In those 2 years, she met her husband, got married, and had a child. From her perspective, my girlfriend might be thinking this is the home her future kids are potentially going to be raised in. I can see her point, but I feel it's a little premature to expect that I would consult my girlfriend of 4 months before buying a home. That feels like moving too fast from my perspective. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You've only been exclusive since September. Sure, she might be imagining a life with you, but that doesn't mean she has a say in your housing now. True. As a single dad, your primary responsibility is to your children. You have the right to make choices that prioritize your and your kids' well-being. Not the a-hole. You're barely a couple. Honestly, this is a red flag that should be heeded. I wouldn't have kids with this woman without setting up some legal protections for your own kids first. If she's this upset so early in the relationship, I wonder what she'll demand down the road. And I'm saying this as a woman. OP is a father first, and he did what's best for his family. Moving closer to work and school is a smart decision. His girlfriend's feelings shouldn't override that. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. While it's always ideal to communicate openly in a relationship, after just 4 months, buying a house might not necessarily require consultation if you're financially independent. However, it could cause tension if your girlfriend feels excluded, especially if you've been building a future together. It's important to discuss major decisions with a partner, particularly if the relationship is serious. But ultimately, it depends on the dynamics and expectations you've set. Last story. Am I the a-hole for threatening to divorce my wife if she didn't become a proper homemaker in the next month? My wife and I have been married for 4 years. I'm 33 and she's 32. Her name is Steph. Steph is a stay-at-home wife, and since we got married, she has been incredibly inconsistent with household labor. I work a physically demanding job, and it would really help if Steph could at least cook dinner more than once or twice a week. Instead, she sits at the dinner table, hunched over her phone for hours a day. She's completely addicted to it but refuses to even have a conversation about this. Now, about twice a year, I have an opportunity to visit a foreign country for work. The nature of the work is to supervise construction and instruct the workers there. The compensation for these trips is always fantastic, and Steph appreciates it when I go because I bring home a pretty fat paycheck afterward. 3 weeks ago, I was about to depart for 2 weeks in one of these trips. At around 10 a.m., I texted Steph and said that time was tight, but I'd be home at 12:30 to pick up my luggage. I asked her if she could make me something for lunch, and she agreed. I emphasized that I only had about 10 minutes to eat before heading to the airport. At 11 a.m., I texted her again saying I'd be home as planned at 2:30. Again, she said, okay. At 12 p.m., I texted her that I was leaving. I walked in the door at exactly 12:30, only to find her sitting at the dinner table, hunched over her phone. When I walked in, she gave me this bewildered look. She had done literally nothing. Nothing was cooking. Steph stood up in a panic and said she'd start making me lunch, but I told her it was pointless. She sheepishly apologized and I responded, "Don't say sorry. Just be less freaking useless." This made her very upset. I just picked up my luggage, left, and went to the airport. I managed to pick up some food at the airport, but I really would have liked a home-cooked meal before eating out every day for 2 weeks. I got home last week and Steph was still angry. She said that what I said to her was over the top. I asked what she had been doing for those 2 weeks, and she insisted that she was super busy. See Instagram and Netflix. I gave her an ultimatum. She has 1 month, until January 10th, to get her act together and be a proper homemaker. I told her that if she couldn't, I would divorce her. Steph was super upset, and for the past week she has been sulking. Again, see Instagram and Netflix. She told her family about it, and her mother basically blamed me for Steph's lack of direction in life. I know it's nonsense that a 32-year-old woman needs her hand held to do anything, but was I being ridiculous with my ultimatum? Why can't she go back to work? Why does she have to stay home? I think it's fair to say if you're not going to do the duties of a stay-at-home wife, then you need to work. Yeah, mother-in-law's blaming him for her lack of direction. Then maybe she should go find a direction. I came into this thinking you were going to be the a-hole, maybe complaining about how she cooks and cleans or something. But reading that she only makes 2 meals a week and didn't even bother preparing you one last lunch on your last day in town when you specifically asked her to and gave her 2 heads up that you were on your way home? Not the a-hole. The fact that she was glued to her phone makes this even worse, because phones have clocks on them. If she knows she loses track of time easily, she could have set an alarm for 12 and had something ready for you by 12:30. Update. I, 28 male, want a divorce from my wife, 27 female, but everyone wants me to forgive her. Original post. My wife and I have been married for 3 years. First, let me say that as far as I know, my wife hasn't been struggling with any issues. And we've known each other since grade school. We literally know everything about each other and our families. About 2 months ago, I came home and found my wife and our 6-month-old daughter on a couch. My wife was asleep, and my daughter was lying next to her. The moment I went over to greet them, I could smell that my daughter needed a diaper change. I didn't know how long it had been since her last change, but I didn't want to disturb my wife. She never naps during the day, so if she was asleep, I figured she must have had an especially hectic and exhausting day. I took our daughter to her room and placed her on the changing table to change her diaper. I was just getting started when, not even 2 minutes later, my wife came into the room. As I greeted her, she looked at me, then down at our daughter on the changing table, and suddenly flew into a rage. She started yelling and physically attacking me. I was completely stunned and didn't know what was happening. Instinctively, I leaned over our daughter to shield her from the blows. My wife was screaming and hitting me, shouting, "How could you?" over and over again, calling me a monster. I was in shock and had no idea what she was talking about. Everything had been perfectly normal that morning when I left for work. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and there had been no signs of any problems. She then ran out of the room, and about 5 minutes later, 3 police officers showed up and placed me in handcuffs while my wife was in hysterics, claiming she had caught me sexually assaulting our daughter. I was completely speechless and couldn't comprehend what was happening. I asked her what she was talking about, but all she kept saying was that she saw me doing it. I was arrested and spent the night in custody. Fortunately, I was released the next day when the police reviewed the camera footage from our daughter's room. The footage clearly showed that I was only changing her diaper and that nothing inappropriate had happened. There was no evidence to support my wife's accusations, and it was evident that she had attacked me without any provocation. After being released, I felt numb. I couldn't believe that my wife would even think I was capable of doing something so horrific, let alone accuse me of it in front of the police. The moment those words came out of her mouth, it was like all the love I had for her just evaporated. Since then, I have felt nothing but an emptiness inside, a void where my feelings for her used to be. I had divorce papers served to her a week ago, and since then, my phone has been blowing up with calls and texts from her, apologizing repeatedly. But honestly, I don't care about her apologies. In over 374 messages, she hasn't given me a single explanation for what happened, or why she thought I would harm our daughter. All she says is sorry and that we should try marriage counseling or individual therapy. I don't want counseling. She can go if she wants, but I won't be involved. I am also pursuing full custody of our daughter. My lawyer has informed me that given the circumstances, including my wife's violent outburst which was caught on camera, the fact that I had to shield our daughter from her, and the false accusations she made against me, there is a good chance I will be awarded full custody. Her behavior raises serious concerns about her mental state, and I want to ensure my daughter is in a safe environment. Despite everything that happened, my family, her family, and even some of our friends are insisting that I'm taking things too far by seeking a divorce and aiming for full custody. They say I should give her another chance, but nobody can explain why she did what she did or offer any justification for her actions. Even my wife hasn't been able to provide a reason in all her messages. I feel worn down as the gravity of everything starts to hit me. I'm mentally and emotionally exhausted from dealing with the fallout, and I'm questioning whether I'm missing something. Why is everyone on her side? What could have driven her to make such a horrific accusation without any evidence? I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do anymore. If anyone has any advice or insight, I'd really appreciate it. What am I missing here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You do not need to stay in this relationship no matter what caused her to snap. She physically attacked you, she called the police, and said you assaulted your own daughter. If you feel divorce is the best option and have mentally checked out, it is the best option. Honestly, at the moment, I'm thinking that something is wrong with me. I don't see myself ever getting past this. What about the next time I'm alone in a room with my daughter, playing with her or anything? Divorce is the only option for me, as I will not be in a relationship that I have to constantly look over my shoulder, especially if I did nothing wrong. If anything, you're missing something really significant. If you hadn't had cameras in the room to prove your innocence, you'd be in jail right now, awaiting trial for one of the most horrible crimes imaginable. Your wife would be divorcing you, and your life would be utterly destroyed. You'd likely never see your daughter again, you'd be unemployable, and you'd be shunned by both family and friends. I'm not usually one of those dump her Reddit folks, but in this situation, you don't have any other option in my opinion. There's no coming back from a false SA accusation. There's no apology she can offer that could ever make things right. Hire the best attorney you can afford, and scorch the earth. If your family or friends don't agree, forget them. They don't matter. I guarantee that if there was no cameras, they would have been on your wife's side. If you feel you need to divorce, then you do what you need to do. It's a hard situation and will be difficult, especially with the legalities around it all. But staying is not going to do you any good. That is a given, but I can't understand if I'm missing something. Especially my friend that know the full story and still taking her side, saying divorce is a step too far. I feel like I'm missing something that I'm not seeing. Was I wrong to change my daughter's diaper? Should I have woken up my wife to do it? Should I just have left her like that? Now for the updates a month later. Quick update as life has been hectic lately, especially with everything going on. The divorce is currently in progress. My daughter is in my custody and my lawyer has assured me that it's almost certain I will be granted full custody. Given the circumstances, my soon-to-be ex-wife will likely only be allowed supervised visits with our daughter. As for what actually happened, it turns out that my wife had a dream, and when she walked into the room and saw me changing our daughter, she somehow confused the dream with reality. In her mind, what she had dreamed seemed real, and that's what led her to accuse me of something so horrific. It's difficult to wrap my head around how a dream could cause such a drastic reaction. But that's the explanation I've been given. I'm still processing everything and it's been a whirlwind of emotions. Between dealing with legal matters, caring for my daughter, and trying to understand how things got to this point, life has been anything but calm. I'll provide a full update when I have more time, but for now, that's where things stand. I am sorry your family is ruined, but you are doing the right thing. You need to protect yourself and your daughter. I don't think mentally healthy people act like that because of the dream they had. She was awake long enough to call the cops and to give them statements. If it was hallucinations, psychosis, delusions, she is most likely paranoid schizophrenic. What if her next dream will be that her house is contaminated with some lethal poison and she has to burn it? Or you or your baby are demons and she has to unalive you? You are not in prison and not on a certain list by pure luck. Your life is not ruined by pure luck. Next time, you might not be so lucky. She needs professional mental health evaluation and lifelong mental health help. Getting yourself and your baby out of that situation was absolutely the right decision and should have been your top priority. You did a correct thing. That said, I think a lot of people on the forum are dismissing your soon-to-be ex-wife's reaction as simply something unreasonable and stupid that she had full control over. I'd like to point out that this may not necessarily be the case. For example, if she wasn't getting enough sleep or wasn't sleeping for long enough periods, example getting up every 3 hours all night to tend to the baby without napping during the day, sleep deprivation could be a factor. Sleep deprivation is no joke. It can cause hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, disorientation, irritability, violent outbursts, and severely impair one's judgment among other things. And that's assuming there weren't any other underlying issues, such as postpartum depression, PPD, or pre-existing trauma. Personally, I'd want to understand whether her behavior was truly within her control, or if there was contributing factors before proceeding directly to divorce. Next story. My male 33 wife, female 34, grieves over a child I never told or agreed would have. How to move forward. My wife, female 34, and I, male 33, have been married for 7 years and together for 10. Back then, we didn't discuss children in detail, except to say that she wanted 1 or 2 at some point. And I agreed. 1, maybe 2 at most. 4 years ago, we had our first child, male 4, and 2 years later, our second child, male 2, was born. After the first, I already felt it was challenging enough. But I agreed to have a second child, reasoning that having a sibling would be good for our first. For me, that was it. I didn't want any more children. And I thought my wife felt the same. We didn't really discuss it further after that. Now that our second has turned 2, my wife wants to try for a third child. She says she wants a big family now. I'm not on board with this. I never wanted that. I told her how I felt and stood my ground. There's been a lot of crying on both sides, and we've each given our arguments, but we're both convinced we're right. There's no way to compromise on this issue. You can't have half a baby. My wife has been having periods of intense sadness, sometimes crying for entire days. On those days, she can't even look at me. Other times, it seems like she has come to terms with it and life goes on. We have 2 small children to take care of, and life is busy. On those days, I think we'll be okay. But then another wave of grief hits, and it feels like she's mourning the idea of a baby I never agreed to have. I'm not sure how I can help the situation further because to me, there are only 2 possible outcomes. She comes to terms with having 2 children, or we end up breaking up because she wants to find someone else who is willing to have a third child with her. Is there a third option that I'm not seeing? I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And I've even started telling people who visit not to bring up innocent questions like, when's the third one coming, in order to avoid triggering another emotional episode. If anyone has experienced a similar situation and found a way through it, I'd appreciate hearing your stories. Any small details or advice that could help her or me would be welcome. Have you asked your wife why she wants another baby? Is it just about the idea of having a large family? Or is it that she wants a girl? I think that's worth unpacking. Not that it will solve your issue, of course, but it might help you understand what she feels is missing from your family at present that another baby might add. She says now it's the big family. Although yes, she did hope for our second to be a girl. Not sure if that still plays, and she's ashamed to say it. As you mentioned, it doesn't solve or change the situation though. So I stopped pondering about that. Marriage counseling and possibly individual therapy for your wife, not because there's anything wrong with her. It's absolutely reasonable for her to discover along the road of having 2 children that she wants 3. And it's absolutely reasonable for you who only wanted 1 and possibly 2 to realize that you don't want any more children. But she is grieving a genuine emotional loss, and therapy can help her work through that. But marriage counseling is also necessary to help the 2 of you work through the realization that 2 people can love each other and not want exactly the same out of life, and more importantly, how to move forward. Unavailable where we live, unfortunately. I've proposed to find it online through video calls, but that hasn't been taken up yet. It feels like true grievance, and I give her all the space she needs when it happens. She won't look at me during these periods, so I think therapy in person, even if it would exist here, would be difficult. She needs therapy, and badly. Spending whole days crying and fostering this bitterness towards you isn't good for her or the family she already has. Honestly, I wonder how much of that is genuine grief, and how much is demonstrative crying a la, "See what you are doing to me, you monster," to manipulate him. If it's actually genuine, then she's probably depressive AF and needs help. Anyway, it's definitely not normal to wallow your grief for a potential child this much when you have 2 actual kids to take care of. I wonder what it's doing to them to see mommy cry for days on end. At this point, they're mostly ignoring it, and she goes upstairs to cry in the main bedroom. Children are not allowed to go up the stairs. I have also brought up the point to try and be happy and care for our 2 current children, but it gets ignored and said there is a room for a 3rd. Last story. My 34 female husband, 30 male, said I wasn't attractive enough to cheat on him. My husband is gorgeous. Everybody says so. I consider myself pretty but unremarkable. My features aren't exactly supermodel material, but I do the best I can with what I've got. I have nice skin thanks to skincare, a decent body thanks to the gym, and so on. But compared to my husband, I might as well be a troll. Even my own mom thought my husband might be gay or hiding something sketchy because of how much more attractive he is than I am. It's the first thing people seem to notice when we're out. I've had women flirt with him right in front of me, and 2 girls I know even try to get with him behind my back. Sometimes I even question why he is with me. I'm insecure about it, but my husband has always reassured me, saying he loves me and thinks I'm beautiful, and that I shouldn't listen to other people. Yesterday changed everything. I bumped into an old boyfriend from college. We had parted on good terms, and it turns out he's doing well in his career. I'm considering changing jobs, and I'm pretty decent at what I do, so we exchanged LinkedIn information. There wasn't anything inappropriate about our conversation, and I wouldn't have had any problem if my husband had been there to hear it. As soon as I got home, my husband started an argument. He said he had read through my LinkedIn messages and was convinced that my ex was flirting with me. I told him he wasn't. My husband then started making fun of my ex's looks, saying some of the cruelest things I've ever heard him say. I told him to stop and said we could talk when he wasn't acting like this. He responded, "If that guy becomes your coworker and you cheat on me," then he scoffed and said, "You're not attractive enough to cheat on me, not enough to keep me." I was speechless. He then slammed the door to our bedroom and locked me out for the night. I ended up sleeping on the sofa. At some point, I vaguely remember him waking me up, and when I woke up, I was tucked into bed. Today, he was incredibly sweet and kissed me before leaving for work. I can still remember everything that happened, but it feels like an out-of-body experience. I have never heard him say anything like that before, ever. I feel so upset and uncomfortable. What do I even say to him? How do I just ask him what he was thinking? What possessed him to say the things he did? And if he really meant them? His mask slipped. Note how he realized it, went and got her off the couch during the night, and was all back to super sweet, kissy husband the next morning. You can only keep the facade up for so long. Agree. Always pay attention to what people say in the heat of the moment. It's what they really think and how they really feel. He felt bad for what he said, so he brought her to bed. But it doesn't change what he said. He showed his true colors when he said those things to her. I think you know deep down the answer to your question, and nothing he could say would explain away the truth. Regardless of what he has said before, he has deep-rooted feelings that he is more attractive and better than you. I could never ever be vulnerable and feel loved if my husband said that to me. He should feel like you are a catch and the best thing that ever happened to him. There are some things that just can't be unsaid. That's what I'm afraid of. Because if he said what he meant, does that mean he looks down on me? That he thinks he's attractive enough to cheat on me? I feel very numb. I know I'm not as attractive as my husband, but I also have good qualities. No one is suffering by being my husband. Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to have sex after my wife turned into a reward/punishment system? Original post. I think my wife is experiencing a phenomenon called the 7 years itch right now. We are married to each other for 7 years now and did not have any serious problems before. Around the end of 2023, she started offering intimacy for small gestures, such as gifts and doing chores. For the last 7 years, and since I have been an independent adult, I make sure to handle my share of chores. She offered mind-blowing for me doing her part of chores, which I enjoyed first. Then it turned into gifts and gestures. Mind you, these had all been present in our relationship for the last 7 years. Nothing out of ordinary. That change happened literally overnight. Great sex life. Both take care of other parties' needs by communicating clearly and respecting their wishes. Even though it was good at first, it turned into a form of reward/punishment later on. You did not do X, no it's for you. Or, good, you did this and we can have X. I asked her what is the deal with this. She did not do it before. She said she gets turned on and feels emotionally connected when I put extra effort in the relationship. I just rolled my eyes at that. What did even change overnight for it to happen? I should have asked it back then. It has been a few months since this started and I could not take it anymore. I started refusing her advances because it's such a turn-off for me. Yesterday, she came to me and said, "You did a chores. I think you deserve a reward." I told her, "I do not know where you have seen this, but it's getting out of hand. I'm not Pavlov's dog that you are giving treat or punishment to. Communicate with me if there is something wrong. But this change you had overnight is ridiculous. Do you expect me to beg for it and obey you in every case? You are making me feel like I have not contributed anything to chores or did not show you any gestures before that. Just tell me what is happening, because if we are going to change every good aspect of our relationship because you saw it somewhere else, this relationship will die out faster than a candlestick." She stormed out crying and slept on a couch, and I'm getting cold shoulder now. Did my wife turn into an 8-year-old child or what? What is this sudden change? And am I the a-hole for not wanting to have sex with her and calling out her behavior? I would appreciate advice, especially from women. Not the a-hole. That's some weird power trip crap. If sex is made into a transactional thing, it's pretty well destroyed. Maybe she thinks she's doing some empowerment thing, but it sounds like she's going for all the power instead of half. I can see she's frustrated herself for not having sex. Yesterday, I did not even do her part of the chores. She probably came to me with hopes of having sex. I cannot understand why she does that. Maybe she's getting crappy advice from somewhere. What about social media? There was/is a trend about people showing doing chores as foreplay, which I suppose is to be teamed with a talk about mental load. But as with all these trends, if someone watches an extended of it and gets sucked into it and thinks it's #goals, then the reality will hit at one point or another. I see two possibilities. 1, she decided she is into some kind of femdom kink. 2, she read an article about using positive reinforcement. Either way, she proceeded with it without having a conversation with you about it. Now she is emotionally manipulating you into groveling by giving you the cold shoulder. Just keep telling her that you were very happy with life until this new thing started, and it makes you very uncomfortable. That you two should be equals. I don't know what it was exactly, but something about this post makes me think it's exactly this. Which, if it's a kink, I feel like they can communicate more clearly about it and be able to integrate it and have it not feel totally transactional. I'm sure it would take time and experimenting, like maybe certain chores make him feel worse than others or whatever. But if it's a kink, I just think they can probably work around that. Otherwise, she went down the wrong rabbit hole online and needs to get off the damn internet. Now for the update. I was planning to talk to my wife today, but surprisingly she came to talk to me in the early morning during breakfast. She apologized and told me the things I said made her understand she hurt me and she felt terrible for that. She told me she took it too far without reading my reactions. I also apologized for telling her off like that and losing control of my emotions. We had a great discussion about what happened, why it happened, and our marriage in general. I asked her if she thought my gestures were not enough and she thought share of chores were unfair. She said it's not like that, and there's no problem with the share of chores nor my gestures. She has been feeling less confident, and adding a new dynamic to our relationship by making me try more made her feel better, just like before we were married. Also, she told me having less things to do allowed her to completely focus on me and turned her on more. She also stated she was feeling shy initiating due to her confidence, and this dynamic helped her to initiate. I asked if she was happy with our sex life with me. She said she is more than happy, and a reward/punishment thing has nothing to do with it. My final question was if she had this kind of kink. She said maybe. She felt good playing like that, but accepted turning the whole sex life into this was terrible for her. I agreed while it was good in the beginning, turning the whole sex life into a reward/punishment system and doing it all the time became a problem. I told her I am okay with that kind of play or any kind of play as long as it's communicated. I am a freak, so no problem from my side. We had more talk about private things, but in the end, communicated our thoughts and feelings to each other clearly. In the end, she told me maybe I should reward her for being a good girl this time, and this awakened something sleeping in me. I do not know if I will be able to wait for the night. Finally, there were some people demonizing my wife and telling me to divorce or find an affair right away. On the other hand, some declared me as a deadbeat husband abusing my wife by making her mommy me, even though I clearly stated it's not like that in the post. Why people love assuming things with zero information like that to make one party guilty? Chill. The problem is solved, and I would say with that challenge, our love and sex life will level up from the looks of it. Thank you for all the suggestions and help. Cheers! A happy update, but not the expected one for the sub. Where's the reveal that someone's an affair baby? Where's the family members blowing up your phone, followed by a break-in, followed by criminal legal proceedings that take 2 weeks start to finish? Haha, my life is quite boring and less action-packed compared to these ones. I'm so glad this worked out for you, really. Communication wins the day again. But I just can't scratch that itchy question. Where did she get this idea? An article, according to her. She also said she read it in a book. I saw the original post, but long after any reply I'd make would be seen, and I wanted to say, tell her to stop reading dumb stuffs online. So, LMAO. Always nice to see people actually being adults and communicating. Good for you and your wife. No a-holes here. Been married for longer than many Redditors have been alive. Communication is key to a good relationship. Don't feel bad if you get bogged down in life and communication gets lost. Even after 35 years together, my wife and I have to reset our communication expectations occasionally. I think a lot of people haven't had good role models in life and for relationships. I was lucky and saw my parents have a very mature relationship. This includes times when they had arguments/fights. I also saw relatives give excellent negative modeling. My wife grew up in a dysfunctional family, and watching how she and her siblings react to conflict is like seeing them play out portions of their childhood. Next story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my cheating wife now that it's in my best interest to do so? I, 43 male, discovered my wife's 44 female infidelity 8 years ago. My 2 kids were in primary school at that time, so I gave her another chance. It was somewhat genuine as I was open to exploring if marriage can be saved. And if it can't be, my kids would be older and can take the brunt of divorce better. I also refused to budge on the 3rd kid that she wanted. I was not gonna bring another kid in this marriage. To her credit, she has been an ideal wife since then, worked on herself, but I never really forgave her. I just learned to be okay with status quo until now. I had an NSTEMI about a year ago. That changed my perspective. I got my cholesterol and blood pressure level down. Start taking my fitness seriously, and I am now in best shape of my life. That triggered self-improvement in other areas of my life. My style, my profession, etc. With that came a nagging feeling. I can get a better partner than my wife. I want to go into retirement with a woman who never betrayed me. So I am leaving my wife. I was honest with her about the reason. I think I could do better than her, that's why I'm leaving her. I told her she's still pretty, which is somewhat true, but what I need is a person who never cheated on me, and she can't be that person. Since our kids are older now, her utility for me is decreasing with every passing day. There was no point delaying the inevitable. She is not happy is an understatement. She is accusing me of using her. She is also distressed about not having a third kid. Thinks that I robbed her of a third kid, which I find most outrageous. She was willing to bring another kid in a broken marriage that she broke. And even if I left her 8 years ago, was she going to jump on any lap to get a baby? Has she no consideration of other 2 kids? I am basically ignoring her attempts to goad me into arguments and marching forwards with a divorce. I am in best position to divorce now. Kids are older. I can date easily. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is obviously an a-hole for cheating, but you sound like a robot man. Who uses the word utility to describe their partner? Imagine giving your partner your all, and then you break your leg and your partner dumps you because you have less utility than before. Who uses the word utility to describe their partner? Probably someone who has stayed with a cheater for 8 years to avoid court-mandated financially taking care of his cheating ex. We live in the only time in human history where adultery wasn't viewed as a very serious crime by the law. There is no other legal contract in our society that one party can violate, where the outcome of that violation is negotiated between the 2 parties rather than prescribed by the contract breach itself. The idea that you can have a no-fault divorce after cheating is insane. The idea that in many states, adultery has no impact on whether or not you owe your partner alimony is absolutely demonic. You are kinda the a-hole for how you talk about your wife. Her utility decreased? Dude, she's a person, not a KitchenAid appliance. You stayed with her for 8 years because you didn't think you could get any better. You have a weird outlook on marriage. His outlook on marriage makes a lot more sense once you realize he never forgave her at all. That's exactly the outlook a cheated on and scorned spouse has, who has not forgiven them. Is it healthy? No. But it's a pretty normal view of your partner after being cheated on. Dude playing the long game here. Brutal. If I were in the dating scene and a man told me he left his wife because she cheated, I would feel sad for him. If he told me he left his wife because she no longer has any utility to him, I would run for the hills. Dude thinks he is a gem now, but I think he might have more work to do and doesn't realize it. If he goes into another marriage with this attitude, he is destined for a second divorce. I'm going with everyone sucks here. Both of you are a-holes. First the cheating by her, then you decided to keep a broken household, then used her until you were done with her. Should have divorced years ago and provided a happier house for the kids. I come from a dysfunctional household and kids see that dynamic. Yep, my dad cheated on my mom when I was 2. My mother is Catholic and doesn't believe in divorce. And she spent the next 16 years treating my dad like crap because she never forgave him. My dad was a stay-at-home dad, so because of that, I was much closer to him. I hated my mom once I hit puberty because of the way she treated my dad. I genuinely had a good, happy childhood, but their toxic marriage left quite an impact on me. I'm 37 and have much commitment issues in relationships. I don't ever want to get married. I don't even want to live with a partner. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being truthful and admitting that I find my wife unattractive after her surgery? My wife had plastic surgery recently. We had discussed it and I was against it. It was not my decision and ultimately I had no say. She looks weird now. She had a fat sucked out of her face. Lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff I don't really get. It gives me Uncanny Valley vibes now. It freaks me out. She's fully healed now and she wants us to go back to normal, like me initiating intimacy. I have done so, but not as much as I used to. And when I do, I try and make sure there is very little light. It's been a few months and I kind of dread having to look at her. Obviously, she has noticed. She has been bugging me to tell her what's up. I've tried telling her I'm just tired from work, or that I'm run down. Really anything except for the truth. She broke down and asked me if I was having an affair. I said that I wasn't. She asked to look at my phone. I unlocked it for her and handed it over. I wasn't worried about her finding anything because there is nothing to find. She spent an hour looking through it and found nothing. She asked me to explain why it changed. I tried explaining that I just wasn't that interested right now. Nothing I said was good enough for her. She kept digging, so I finally told her the truth. I wasn't harsh or brutally honest. I just told her that her new face wasn't something I found attractive and that I was turned off. She asked if that's why I turned off all the lights now, and I said yes. She started crying and said that she needed time alone. She went to stay with her sister. I have been called every name in the book since this happened. Her sister said I'm a piece of turd for insulting my wife's looks. Her friends all think I'm an a-hole. I tried not to say anything. I can't force myself to find her attractive. I still love her, but her face is just weird now. She looks like the blue alien from The Fifth Element. Not the a-hole. Freedom of choice is never freedom from consequence. This is the obvious outcome when not considering your partner when making aesthetic changes, especially ones as dramatic as those described. Hopefully she finds another Mondo shaman to love. I completely agree. I'm a nurse and work in plastics. What many people seem to fail to comprehend is that these procedures are major body modifications. It's not uncommon for these patients to have body dysmorphia. I work on the reconstructive side, but I personally believe that there are many surgeons in the private/elective plastics arena that are straight-up criminals. Elective plastics needs a lot more regulation. I just lost my aunt to a massive stroke she suffered hours after her 6th facelift. Not a-hole. Watching Botched cured me of ever wanting plastic surgery for mere physical appearance. Oh God, if she did a buccal fat remover, I totally feel you. It makes people look so freaky. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, I couldn't remember. Oh man, there are plastic surgeons out there that refuse to do this. 1, because of the damage it can cause. And 2, because there isn't enough data to show exactly what it'll do over time. But they suspect it'll cause some worse problems down the road as people age. Even worse for people under 40 to 50. According to the rabbit hole I went down recently, buccal fat is good to have because it can help reduce jowl sagging later on. Anyway, while it's totally in her right to make the choice to get that surgery, you're not the a-hole OP. No one's an a-hole for what they do/don't find attractive. And I said this in another comment, but you tried to compromise internally and tried to protect her feelings. But she flung around accusations of cheating, wouldn't let it go, kept pushing. And when you're honest with her, she flipped her lid, left, and pulled other people into your marriage who were now on a slam campaign against you. She did all of this and still can't manage to take any personal responsibility or act like an adult about it. To be honest, this post would be fit for r/oh no consequences, but not because of you. Not the a-hole. I love my partner's face. I love the lines I've seen developed over the years. I love the way his eyes crinkle when he laughs. My favorite place in the world is to have my face buried in the crook of his neck, cheek to cheek. When we make love, his face fills my vision and becomes my whole world. I would miss that face so much if it changed it with plastic surgery. I would still love him, but I would feel like I lost something dear to me. It's her face, and she can do what she wants with it. But she underestimated how much you loved her the way she was. I understand. Same. I love looking at my husband even though he's aged quite a bit in almost 20 years. He says he still loves looking at me, but I also look the same. Good genes. However, if my family is any indication, he will have to look at a crypt keeper once I hit 60. Not the a-hole. Update. My wife told me I'm replaceable. Original post. I, 30 male, have been married to my wife, 29 female, for 2 years, and we have known each other for 6. A few weeks ago, we had an argument, and during our disagreement, she told me that I am replaceable. After our argument, she went out with her friends. I have been dealing with some health problems for a while, and the argument stressed me out, leaving me nervous and unwell. I was alone in the house and decided to call the paramedics because I felt that something was really wrong. To sum up, I suffered a heart attack. In hospital, they tried to reach my wife, but she didn't respond, likely still upset from our argument. She called later after coming home when she found out that I'm not there. After learning of my condition, she came to see me and stayed with me the entire time, constantly crying and holding my hands. After being sent home, she did everything so I could recover faster. However, despite her efforts, I couldn't stop thinking about how she had told me that I'm replaceable. I constantly think about it. I want to confront her about it, but I don't think I'm ready. I'm trying to understand why context matters. In what way or situation is it acceptable to call your partner replaceable? The audacity to even say something like that is beyond me. Edit, I will answer some things here. We have no children. I have genetic health problems. External factors also contributed to my problems. I have higher salary than her, so I mostly pay the bills or buy things for our home. I mostly cook and clean. She does it too, but mostly me. It's not 50-50, more like 60-40. She isn't actively trying to end me. I hope so at least. I don't know if she's cheating. Let's also address the elephant in the room. We had arguments about our house, some issues with it. After that, we also discussed our priorities, careers, and intimacy. At one point, discussion was replaced by her venting and saying things not even related to original discussion. I had no issues with her ranting about things until she told me that I'm replaceable. That was the end of conversation. I no longer wanted to talk. She finds my silence terrifying, but she didn't stay in the house for long after argument. I don't know when she came home. I woke up in the hospital and she was there. She kept crying and holding my hands. She didn't speak much. She couldn't. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. You can forgive her for what she said, but you will never forget how she made you feel in the moment. This is why we don't name call or let our anger overwhelm our kindness. It is okay to be angry, but to be cruel is not acceptable. I'm going to piggyback on this comment because of this comment. You can forgive her for what she said, but you will never forget how she made you feel. Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015, I came home after working 15 hours. My wife was home and fairly intoxicated. She was super mad at me for some reason and started tearing into me. She then uttered a phrase, "I'll take your kids and make you pay." That sentence changed the dynamic of our relationship forever. She has no idea, as I've never brought this up. You can forgive her, but you will never forget how you felt. Yeah, in the early 2000s, my marriage began to fall apart the moment we had a discussion, not even an argument, about finances and work. And she dismissed my being stressed out with, "Well, your job's not as important as mine, so I don't see why you're so stressed." I didn't get into it with her because at least on one level, she was right. Social work is more important than working for an insurance company. But her being so dismissive really made me open my eyes. I started to realize that I was essentially an accessory and a means to an end, and that my real value to her was an attempt to beat her younger sister to life milestones, like husband/house/baby. I started actually noticing every time she'd overrule my opinions for once. Started withdrawing, and eventually we began to resent each other and finally divorced. Thankfully without house or baby. I can't imagine what it would have been like trying to co-parent with her. My husband once said to me, "Wives are replaceable, mothers are not. Mom will always win." Within the year, our 9-year marriage collapsed. The context was finding out how deeply involved his mother was in our marriage, arguments, decisions, etc. We were not arguing, but having a discussion about how it wasn't right to basically have a third person in the marriage, that it was between the two of us. The way I found out was during a discussion about investments we had made. I got up from the table we were talking at and found his phone on a counter with Mom showing on screen. He'd called her and had her listen in to our discussion so he could take it to her after we were done. I disconnected the call without comment and she called back immediately. He vehemently disagreed that it wasn't right and made that statement to me, basically stating that it was he and his mom against me and I'd always lose, while she was still on the phone listening in. It was like a gut punch. It opened my eyes to a lot of little things that eventually led to filing for divorce. He was stunned. His mom called me immediately and said, "You can't do that." Well, yes, I can, and did. As a petty move, I served his mother the divorce papers at the same time, so she could be involved in the divorce. Lol. $50 well spent in my opinion. She came to our hearing and was so vocal about what she thought was right or wrong, that the judge ordered her out of the courtroom. Lol. He's her full-time problem now. They've been living together since the separation, and she's miserable about it. They deserve each other. +1 for serving her divorce papers. Halfway reading this, I was wondering that exact thing, and you actually did it. You are awesome. Hope life is treating you well. Life is pretty sweet, but it did take a while to get there. Divorce is hard, no matter how much it needs to happen. I grew up in a Chinese household. My mother and brother are always together. When my ex-sister-in-law moved into our house, my mom wouldn't let her step into my brother's room. She even slept in my brother's bedroom some nights, saying she was afraid that my ex-sister-in-law would sneak into the room. She micromanaged every aspect of my brother's life, and I think he loved it, until my ex-sister-in-law couldn't stand it and left. Luckily, I'm a daughter, and she couldn't care less about me. But the thought of me having to marry into a family like mine is just terrifying. God forbid her married son sleep with his own wife. I'm glad she got out. Mini update. On a side note, some people in this comment section have some issues themselves. Like some of the comments are just wild, horrifying. I've decided to separate for a month. We will go to a counselor and speak maybe 1 to 2 times a week. If she cares about me, she will accept it and do everything she can to improve our relationship and marriage. If she starts playing around, going out on dates, or if I suspect her of cheating, I will end it. There won't be any forgiveness or second chances. I will make an update post sometime in the future. So many of you reached out and offered support and advice. I think the least I can do is provide you with the update. Thank you all very much. Now for the full update. As promised, here's an update in my situation. I won't go into much detail, just the most important things. Physically, I'm doing great. I've started working out again, although at a slower pace than before. With time, it will get better. Separation really helped me a lot. Firstly, I might sound selfish, but I only worried about myself, so I did everything for myself. At first, it was a different feeling. I felt alone for the first time in a really long time, and I needed a few days to get used to it. After I got used to it, it was actually quite nice. I got to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. I bought myself a lot of things, redecorated a bit, changed some old things. And honestly, I liked it. There was no stress, no arguments, no problems. It was peaceful and quiet. I also got myself a cat, and the two of us got along really well. I spoke to my wife on a weekly basis. We also went to a counselor, which really changed a lot of things. Whenever we went there, I laid all cards on the table. I was really honest, maybe too honest, and I said a lot of things that had accumulated over time. Every annoyance, issue, pretty much everything I thought could be way better. My wife took the separation really hard. It was really bad. For the first few days, she was fine, or she pretended to be. But as time progressed, it was clear she wasn't doing well. What I did was whenever we went to a counselor, I focused only in trying to figure out my marriage and issues with it. But as soon as I left the counselor, I checked out. Like a switch. I didn't want to bring any of it home and disturb my peace. My wife also started individual therapy for her own mental health and issues that have been present for some time. I asked her if she cheated on me, and honestly, I expected some outburst of rage or yelling. But there wasn't any of it. She was really sweet and told me no, and that she understands why I might think that, and she offered her phone and her social media accounts for me to check. For some reason, I decided to be a prick, and I told her that maybe she deleted and covered her tracks. She has no proof of anything. Again, no yelling or anything, just a really sad look in her eyes. I realized that I went too far, and I apologized. Time passed, and I decided to let it go. So I told her that I forgive her and that I will give her another chance. Honestly, I wanted some form of revenge, but while revenge might be sweet, everything after it is bitter. I also told her that I won't forget her words. Anyway, she came back to my house and everything changed. No longer am I doing most of this stuff. She now works just as hard, maybe even more than me, and she doesn't allow me to do certain things, much to my annoyance. We will continue going to a counselor for a little bit longer, and she's still going to her individual therapy. While I liked being alone, I truly missed her. I missed her hair, her smile, her eyes, and now I find myself looking at her and paying attention to everything she does. I guess separation made us appreciate each other way more than before. Maybe we took each other for granted, and we didn't value each other until we split. I think we fell in love again. I can't describe it, but each hug, each touch feels different, like it radiates with sincerity and love. As for the future, I'm planning a trip in secret as a surprise, so we can go out of town for a few days, just the two of us. Time alone really helped me relax and not worry about unimportant things. I focused on myself and what I want my marriage to be and my life. So now I'm going to work towards that. We really learned to communicate much better than before. We became much more open towards each other, more vulnerable. I think it will help us going forward. I guess, after all, it turns out that I'm not so easily replaceable. Happy to hear you guys are able to work things out. It was a tough tunnel to go through, but the relationship seems to have gotten stronger on the other side, and that's awesome. It was a blessing in disguise. We are still working on it, and we will continue to do so. Things are way better than they used to be. There are still some differences and things we need to work on, or at least find a middle ground, which will probably be resolved in future counseling sessions. I just hope she realizes how close she came to losing you multiple times in a very short time. I hope she understands this could have had a much worse ending. Good on you for being willing to put in the work and growing yourself. Best wishes going forward. Sounds like you're happier single. I'm not really clear why you went back to your wife. At any rate, good luck. Wish you the best. Indeed, it was, for a time, that I felt something was missing. People sometimes say things they don't mean in the heat of the moment. She did it too. I think it was fair to both of us. Some time apart from each other really helped us figure out what each of us wants and what we mean to each other. Life is better when you get to share it with somebody. Last story. Am I the a-hole for my reaction after finding out my ex cheated on me? So I have been with my ex Lara for 6 years and we were living together since 3. Our relationship was amazing, at least in my point of view. We were deeply in love. Romantic to each other, had arguments even heated, but we always solved everything by talking to each other. So for real, no problems until 2 weeks ago. Recently, I noticed a few things that were off. Like Lara being overprotective with her phone, going in another room while talking with people. But since it all started 4 months ago, I didn't pay too much attention because she always said that she was preparing a surprise for a best friend, so I didn't insist. Long story short, I caught her cheating at my house 2 weeks ago, while I came back from work because I forgot my phone. My reaction wasn't being mad, screaming, shouting, or any of these things, but I just told the guy to put some clothes on and leave, and to Lara that we were over and wanted to break up immediately. I said all of this calmly without raising my voice or screaming. Lara was the one screaming, crying, and begging me to forgive her, but I just kept saying to pack her stuff and leave my house. So after 2 hours of this pathetic show, she left. That day I went to work, later obviously, but it wasn't the worst day of my life. It was just a bad day like others. 2 days ago, I went on a date with another girl and I hope to a second date. We are planning, so hopes are very high, haha. My friends and family told me that my reaction was strange because they expected more from me. Because I just moved on fast from Lara's cheating like I didn't care at all about her. Stating my calm and cold reaction. I have a very particular point of view on cheaters, and maybe that's why. In my particular case, the screaming, shouting, crying, getting angry, and mad to me weren't useful at all. Because they don't bring me anything of good, nor will they relieve my pain and suffering, so I do something that doesn't bring me anything of good. I mean, she cheated by her choice. We broke up and that's all. Why should I cry, get mad, or angry because Lara cheated on me? She's just a loser and took the consequences of her actions. And to me, that's all. Obviously, in these 2 weeks, Lara's talked to me on social media and texted me and called me like 100 times, but I don't care. I never blocked her and probably would never do because, like I said, it didn't bring me anything of good or bad. I'm just indifferent to it. And a bit because I like to see people humiliating themselves. Lol. So all of this being said, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. You were handling it like a man's man. The way you reacted probably hurt her more than anything else. Not the a-hole, but I wouldn't assume that you really cared about the relationship if it hasn't really affected you. You caught your girlfriend with another man in your house and went to work like nothing happened. You could absolutely get mad and cry because you loved this person that you put trust in and spent years with and were betrayed. That would bring out rage and ugly cries in most if not all people. And yes, crying and getting your feelings out can absolutely help you feel better. Not sure how to explain this, but all of that is the reaction those pathetic people who cheat are looking for. It's not all men, but a good segment of us just gets indifferent. The feeling we had, that fire and desire for you, got snuffed out the moment we figured it out. Call it cold or whatever, but some guys do just function this way. I had one ex when I was in my teens. It was the whole F you screaming match. Another ex, it was this. I just shrugged it off, told them to GTFO and never talked to them again. Did it suck? Sure. But I can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. I can only control me and my actions. Not the a-hole. You handled it like a mature adult. I don't understand why people make a big show of it and go off the deep end. There's always someone else out there. They may or may not treat you better, but it is certainly not the end of the world. because people put a lot of work and planning into life with a partner, and this thing most humans have called emotions. I'm not sure what you are on about, but the practical application is that people struggle with made-up concepts like true love, fate, destiny, etc., and can't remove themselves from this and think objectively. And when someone cheats, all of that fantasy is quashed. The facade of love is gone. Move on. The most ridiculous thing is engaging in a physical battle with a man that is cheating with your girlfriend or wife. The man didn't have some magical power or aura that tricked someone into cheating. It was a decision by your partner to engage. They could have rebuffed the advances. Why lose sleep over someone like this? The future is brighter. People have a fear of the unknown. If you move to a new city, you will find a partner. You will find another in your own city if you break up. Everyone is capable of finding love anywhere, anytime. The next relationship could be better or it could be worse. People have to get over the irrational fear and quit allowing themselves to be trapped in bad relationships. It's easier to stay and ignore real issues because of the perception of failure, fear, and other internal issues. The biggest hurdle and complication is children. If that is not a factor, then you should explore relationships until you are as happy as you feel you need to be. Update. I 30 think my wife, 27, has been having an affair with our son's kindergarten teacher, 30. How can I handle this in a way that doesn't hurt and confuse my son? Original post. So basically, I travel for work, but my wife is a stay-at-home mother to our 6-year-old son. He started school in August, and we both hit it off with his teacher and he became one of our friends and would come over sometimes to hang out on the weekends, etc. About a month ago, when I was home for a week or so, I found a change of men's clothes in the laundry hamper in the basement and recognized them as not mine and asked my wife about them. At first, she insisted they were mine, but as soon as I pulled them out and said that I don't wear those kinds of clothes, her whole demeanor changed. She suddenly got very reserved and said it was his, my son's teacher, and that he came over and went swimming, and that's why they were there, because he had brought a change of clothes. She had never told me she had anyone over while I was gone, which was fine but a little odd. When I asked what day he was here, she told me today, which was conveniently also the same day our security cameras were broken, and she had to reset them or something. Still, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but me and my wife never had any issues, so I just shrugged it off and went to bed. A few hours later, and she was bathing in our master bathroom, I could hear my wife on the phone while she was in the bathtub, both being extremely quiet and giggly. I heard her legitimately say, "Ooh, I love your Batman voice," and so I got up and knocked on the door. The following conversation ensued. Me, "Hey, who are you talking to?" Her, "My sister." Me, "Your sister can do a Batman voice?" Her, "Why are you listening to my phone call?" Me, "I'm not. I overheard you." Then silence, and she hurriedly got off the phone and came to bed a little later. I hate to say it, but I did go through her phone and immediately found a lot of stuff I really don't like. Her and him, the teacher, with my son out doing things looking like a family. I found text that she had been making a lot of trips to the school and meeting him for lunch during the day. He had gifted her flowers twice. Ultimately, I found really weird hotel booking confirmations in the teacher's name and the duration of the time I was gone for a hotel in our city for 2 adults and 1 child, which made me look back on some of the pictures I saw on her phone and realized that at some point she had taken my son to a hotel with a teacher and all of them were together. I am not proud of going through her phone, and obviously I didn't find anything romantic between their texts, but they do seem to be constantly eager to talk, and the hotel thing weirds me out, frankly. I haven't taken any job super far away for a while for a reason, and the more time goes on, the worse I feel about what I saw on my wife's phone. I think I'm going to straight up tell my wife tonight that someone told me they saw her with a teacher at a hotel, and that someone made a comment about how much she is at the school. I am especially concerned for my son, and wondering what he might have seen. As far as I have seen of his schoolwork and from what he's told me, he just does a really good job at school, and loves his teacher and class. He's really well adjusted, but talks about his teacher a lot, and even randomly blurted out when I took him to McDonald's that sometimes his mom makes him call his teacher uncle/daddy. Which is just bizarre, but also could just be him being a kid and saying weird things. Should I ask him? I mean, he's only 6. If he hasn't seen anything weird, I don't want to confuse him. But I also feel like if my wife is acting this way, I have to be sure my son isn't being hurt or involved in this. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Do not confront her. She's only going to lie to you.
First and foremost, you need to go to a reputable divorce lawyer/law firm. I'm not suggesting you file for divorce. I'm only advising you this because if it gets ugly, and it most likely will, you need to get a leg up on this. Also, a good law firm will set you up with a private investigator. Odds are there's more to this than you know. If you don't feel comfortable going to a divorce lawyer for advice, then at least get a good private investigator. Then based on what comes up, you can decide how you want to proceed. Good luck, man. This sucks. Oh, okay, so I won't confront her then. I guess I'll start shopping around for a good lawyer and a therapist while I'm at it. I know you feel like throwing everything in her face, but don't do it. Lawyer up and start documenting her interactions with your kid and a teacher. Get your financials in order. House, accounts, bills, who pays what, from whose money, where the hotel's paid for, etc. Keep as calm as possible. When you feel you can't handle it anymore, go for a walk alone. I do, and I'm struggling against just screeching at her. But I know it's best for my son and even myself in the long run if I just suffer in silence for another few weeks so I can find a lawyer and get the ball rolling. Man, I'm sorry. Get all the proof you can to give your lawyer and figure out where to go from here. Second this, she's found your replacement. Third this, get your documents in order, get a lawyer, and protect your connection to your son. Thanks, everyone. I managed to preserve some of the proof of the hotel bookings and pictures via screenshot. I even was able to log on to her Discord and confirm that she is, definitely experimenting with him to say the least. Edit, thank you everyone so far. I've decided not to confront her and just wait it out with the help of a lawyer/private investigator. And now for the update. Hey everyone. A month ago I made a post about my wife cheating on me with our son's teacher, obviously. I had a lot of people asking me for an update when I had one, so this is it. I served my wife divorce papers a week after my post was made. With the help of a damn good private investigator and another employee at my son's school, I had more than enough evidence to file on account of infidelity. Not that I needed this, but the harsh truth of the situation really pushed me to actually go through with it. She denied everything at first, but caved and signed them later on in the evening after realizing I meant it. Everything should be finalized in about 3 to 4 more weeks. I have primary custody of my son as of now, on account of my now ex-wife had been going through absolutely ballistic with pain pills. Like going through $400 worth a week. I'm not sure how I didn't see all of the signs, but I found this out via my PI. It made me realize I was away from home far too often. I was an absent father and husband, and I'm working every day to change that. It also made me realize how blindly I trusted her to woman up and be there for our child when I was away. And I hope I will never be that naive again. I hope she gets the help she needs so she can seize the disappointment she has caused my baby. He cries a lot now. I feel terrible for him, and I'm not sure how she could have acted with such disregard for him going to the affair. As for the teacher, it turns out he was on some sort of quarterly contract or something at the school. And after a trip to the school system, armed with what evidence I did have and quite the grievance against him, may have been informed that he has not been invited back for the new semester after Christmas break. Wife has moved out of the house that is at her parents', but she comes on the weekends to see the kid. Sometimes I still love her, but my self-esteem is mostly shattered after this whole ordeal. But I'm in therapy. So is my son. We've both had 2 sessions. We are going to be okay. I have family coming from out of the country for Christmas and he is so excited for that. Thanks for everything. Wow, I've been waiting for an update from you. Just despicable behavior. Not just infidelity, but also the reckless exposure of your son to this person. Good luck and glad you and your son are in therapy. Hopefully your soon-to-be ex-wife will get her act together, so your son can have both his parents in his life. Did she express any remorse? Or was she just upset about getting busted? I'm also hoping she really pulls through with the rehab, and slowly gets to a place where I can trust her to have him for the weekends at her place, etc. I'm not going to stop her from being in his life, but I will monitor the time they have until I'm sure she won't get him involved in any more chaos like this. She denied everything at first, and it was all waterworks with the "I love you." So we had a long talk and I told her she had to stop lying, and that she didn't love me. She basically agreed that she didn't love me, and thought she could have both a boyfriend and a normal family at the same time. She's in therapy too, I'm sure, because of the rehab. I hope the best for her, really. But what she did really sucks. Oh man, complete cake eater. Wow, what a couple of awful people. Getting your son to call this turd-stained daddy? No matter your absence, you should have been able to trust your wife to deal with a problem with your family's best interests at heart, not this. Good luck with the therapy, the self-confidence, and the new dynamic. Hope it works out for you in the future. Unbelievable that people are harping on you for admitting you've been too focused on work and let things default to her. Yeah, as a partner, that's crappy. But are y'all for real? Having an emotional and physical affair, lying to his face, having your child around your affair partner. And this guy needs luck in his next relationship? Hell no. He tried, and she lied to his face and hooked up with another dude and had their kid around that. That's emotionally damaging to the child to say the least, but freaking unforgivable for involving the child. I'm sorry this happened, but I'm glad you walked away. Some things aren't forgivable. You sure your kid is yours? Definitely get tested for STDs. Just know that whoever you are a person that's worth of love and respect. Right now, you're a lovable person. Only a damaged, hurt person does that to something. It's not a reflection of you. I wish you the best of luck in the future. Continue therapy to process this and heal. Thanks, man. I'm literally working for the military and I'm on frequent deployments and trips to other bases, where I work with data and as a translator. I'll admit, I could have been around more. I see no fault in admitting it, but it also doesn't make me a monster. I'm doing what I can to fix it. I am sure my son is mine. He looks just like me, and even if he wasn't, that's my baby. I love him more than life, man. I did get tested, and luckily I'm clean. Thank you. Last story is titled, Update. Saw my best friend's dad kissing the person he's in love with. Original post. Hey, I'm 19 male, my friend Adam is 19 male too, but he has feelings for our other friend Pam who's 18 female, and whom we've known our whole lives. Last night, I was walking from a job back to campus when I saw Pam going back into the dorms with a guy wearing a hoodie. I was going to shout out to her, but then I saw the guy wrap his arms around her and kiss her goodbye. After he turned around, it took me a second to recognize him because he's normally dressed differently, but it was Adam's dad for sure. Adam told me last year he had feelings for Pam, and apparently he's had them for a while. But he hasn't said anything to her because she said she's not interested in dating while she's here because she's on a scholarship and needs to keep up her grades. Adam's parents are married and he has younger siblings, so I don't know if I tell him what I saw or stay out of it. I think I'd want to know, but I've never been in a situation like this, so I don't know. Now for the advice before reading the update. Tell him, so he can let his mom know she's married to a freaking creep. It's really freaking creepy, right? Has Adam's dad known Pam since she was a child? Yeah, he's known her since his family moved here when we were like 4. Are Pam's parents friends with your parents as well? And or Adam's? Just try to remember that if you tell someone what you saw and people get mad at you, it's not your fault. This is all on a 40-plus-year-old creeper who is taking advantage of an 18-year-old, and probably even younger, which is a big problem. Yes, they're all friends with each other. Thanks for the reassurance. I'm going to talk to my parents tomorrow. Normally, I'm a mind-your-business kind of person, but she's 18. He's known her his entire life, and he's married with kids? Red flags all over. How old is he? I don't know exactly how old. I know he's younger than my dad who's 42, but not by much. You need to tell Adam. His mother needs to know, and so do Pam's parents. Try talking to both your parents first. This is huge, and a possible grooming or creep situation. It may possibly be innocent, but that would be one hell of an explanation, which you should get from each party separately so they don't have a chance to concoct a story. Since this is so big and a potential safety issue, I highly recommend leaning on your parents for advice as you don't have that much life experience either. Plus, this could get really ugly. Yes, I guess this is my best bet. I know my mom is going to flip out. It will be awkward and uncomfortable. Just sit them both down and tell them you need to talk to them about something important, and for them to listen to the end without interruption. Tell them everything you posted here. Your concerns over your friend's father cheating, the young girl who may have possibly been groomed or is getting in over her head, and mention your friend who has feelings for the girl whom his father is kissing, and how this could all end badly. You don't know how to approach your friend to tell him what you saw. And while another person's marriage isn't something that is generally other people's business, you don't want to betray your friend by staying silent. Even though the truth could possibly end his parents' marriage, destroy his relationship with both his dad and his girl, plus the whole possibility of a potential grooming situation. Or at least a girl who isn't over her head. hasn't thought of the consequences, or doesn't realize the damage this can cause. It's a lot to unpack, and you need their help. And now for the update. I had every intention of telling my parents and getting their advice. But then Adam invited me out, and for a big part of the night, Pam was there with us. We had a few drinks, and after Pam left, Adam was basically saying how they had hung out earlier in the day, how he was going to tell her about his feelings for her, etc. I ended up telling him about what I saw, but I told him I had literally zero context and didn't know what the exact situation was. He thought I was messing with him at first. He thought I was pulling a prank. Then we went to Pam's room and he was like, "Are you sleeping with my dad? I need you to look me in the eyes and tell me you aren't sleeping with my dad." And she immediately started crying, saying that she felt horrible for what she was doing, and she felt horrible for lying to us and hurting Adam's family and mom. But it just started happening, and she didn't know how to stop it from happening. Adam was really mad. He told her it was disgusting, that he's known her from since she was a kid. Pam was just sobbing and kept apologizing over and over, so we thought it was for the best if we left and let her roommate calm her down. I tried to calm Adam down, but then he called his mom and was just like, "Did you know that Dad was sleeping with Pam?" And she thought he was messing with her, and she kept asking him how much he'd had to drink. But she finally realized he was telling the truth, and I could hear her yell through the other side of the phone. I guess to Adam's dad, "Is this the truth? Is it telling the truth?" So the aftermath of all this is that Adam's dad was kicked out of his house. His mom is next level pissed, destroying his things level pissed. Pam's parents are pissed too. Apparently the altercation Adam's dad had with her dad didn't end well. It wasn't physical or anything, just ugly, I heard. I don't know when the relationship started, but I guess the timing is suspicious enough that the cops came and talked to Pam. He was doing alright, but just mainly wants to be left alone right now. Adam is still pissed. He's blowing off classes and binge drinking, and said he doesn't plan on stopping until he forgets about his pathetic father. All of this sucks, but I know I couldn't have kept this from Adam. He's my best friend, but I couldn't keep that from him. I know some people think I should have kept my mouth shut, but I think that would be a pretty horrible thing to do to a friend. You did hard yet right thing, Opie. I'm sorry for your friend. Thanks. He's not handling it well, but hopefully he'll pull it together. I hope so. Binge drinking isn't gonna help him. He can't forget his POS father. He is gonna need therapy. Yeah, I'm going to work on warming him up to therapy. Me thinks the girl was groomed and dad is a pedo. There's really no thinking to do about it. He's been around her since she was a small child. He straight up did it to her. It's not like there's some switch that flips when a young girl turns 18, that all of a sudden makes a grown man start seeing this child he's known for years as a romantic option. Dude is a verifiable pedo, more than an animal and less than a man. You 100% did the right thing. Being a good friend isn't always going to be a fun thing. Hard truths, tough love, and honesty all demand sacrifice. You did great. Sorry it sucks. Thank you. It does suck.